Can you get a hat trick?
I don't know.
If you manage to get a hat trick, I will make you a shirt that says hat trick on it. with a little dog fetching a bone or something. It'll be a dog fetching something, and it'll say hat trick.
Stop it.
Welcome.
Welcome. Hello. Keith has transformed himself back into his normal form. He's no longer a porg.
Oh, yeah. I listened to last week's episode. It was good stuff. The jackalope that you replaced me with, or what did you call it?
The porg.
It's the porg. Porg.
It's the porg of judgment.
Okay.
Yes. Judging the episode the entire time.
Yes, he was.
Anyway, good stuff. Good stuff last week.
It passed because we didn't blow up like was suggested. Continued on.
He'll be my sidekick today.
He'll be my sidekick today.
I'll have to train him to take over next week, too.
Oh, that's right. Well, we really have nothing to talk about at all, so we might as well, just keep it short and sweet.
Do we not have any? We don't have anything to talk about? Welcome. Here we are.
Here we are.
Once again.
Here we are.
Here we come to save your day.
There's so many buttons on here that I'm not sure if I actually want to push them or not.
Just do it.
I will build a great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Yeah! Mark my words.
Yeah!
Yes! Yes! That lady in the background.
That aged like dry dairy.
Yes. In his defense, Congress wouldn't do it.
That's fair.
Like they're supposed to by law. But, Anyway, I should close that so I don't keep playing with that. Actually focus on what I need to do. Yes. Like giving some guidepost markers for the show or something. I don't know.
I don't know. You're supposed to do the rundown.
The rundown. So, we have some things. We do have. I found just a couple of things that might be of interest in today's flailing society. And maybe a brief review from Keith and I on Nefarious without spoilers, because we both watched it. Mike was unable to watch it with us. Something about his wife or something. I don't know.
We were just busy.
Is that what you call it?
Yes.
Now the whole world knows.
Giggity.
No, damage is done. Don't try to wriggle yourself out of it.
I'm not even. It's.
You actually were telling the truth. I do that quite a lot. Yeah, people are always surprised.
People are always surprised. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, today's episode is going to be depressing. So naturally, we're going to make as much fun of the depressing stuff as possible. Because what better way to combat depression than with, probably the thing that actually doesn't help people that are depressed. That is cruel, dark humor.
What doesn't kill you makes your humor darker.
Yes. But before all of that, of course, we need our weekly dose of vitamin B.
Ooh, here we go.
I already missed the duet with Scott. That was
fantastic.
It's beautiful.
I was so on board for that.
That could be the second song on our album.
It should be. Welcome to your vitamin B.
Oh, thank you.
This is my time. I'll thank you to relinquish it to me. Because I have some news for you today.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm reclaiming my time. All right, you can have it back now. Algorithm condemns man to lifetime of content about something he looked at once.
Yeah? Yeah.
That sounds about right.
We figured you're interested in this because you looked at it once. I don't want my whole feed to be that.
Yeah.
I don't want my feed to be anything about that. Actually, I looked at it on something completely different.
Yeah. Speaking of things that nobody cares about, Fox News defamation trial over as jury votes in favor of Dominion 138,000 to 1.
Those 9 jurors have quite the vote. That's quite the jury pool they got there in Manhattan.
Our favorite playground, Florida, has some wonderful, wonderful news. Disney World forced to close after DeSantis builds elementary school within 1,000 feet. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Please let it happen.
John Leguizamo's boycott of Mario movie leads to sharp rise in people Googling, who is John Leguizamo?
Guilty.
He's that one guy from John Wick.
Oh, you're in every unsuccessful movie, and the successful movies you're in, I hated your role. Okay, I got it.
The successful movies you're in, nobody remembers you being in.
Yes.
The only reason I know that you're in John Wick is because I watched it last week. And I forgot you were in it until I saw you.
Oh, he's in it.
Oh, hey. And he's in it for 5 minutes.
And he's terrible.
He punches a mobster and then drinks some Jack. That's pretty much it. That's what he does. Anyway.
And somehow he gets paid for it.
Speaking of drinking, Mormon wishes he drank beer so he could boycott Bud Light.
Yeah?
I relate to that.
That being said, I'm ahead of the curve. I was boycotting him before it was cool.
That's fair. That's fair. How many of us will actually make it beyond the pearly gates? Dave Ramsey has been appointed to stand outside of the pearly gates and judge people based on how well they budgeted. Most of us are screwed. Just going to throw that out there.
What were you thinking?
Bring it on.
Just going to throw that out there.
No, I would love to be judged by
Dave
Ramsey.
So
I track every single transaction. I'm meticulous on that.
It's one thing to track it. It's another thing to
plan it.
plan it.
Bring it on.
I track every transaction too. Just not proud of where
my bank does that for me. Last but not least in our entertainment news segment, non-binary Saturday Night Live cast member also comes out as non-funny.
In surprise to no one.
Yes.
With that, though, I found it odd that they kept the camera angles so you'd only see their feet dangling from the ceiling
Yeah.
multiple times.
Must not have seen that clip.
Very strange.
It's not. You're not
Very
really
strange.
missing anything other than it was bad.
It was a very Wizard of Oz moment.
That's quite the compliment. It's
The part where you can see the silhouette of the hanging person behind the...
yes.
That's dark.
Like
Speaking
I said, dark
of
humor.
dark, moving on to our political news segment. Chicago mayor warns that if local Walmart locations close, people will have fewer places to shoplift.
It's true. Where are they going to steal supplies for themselves?
In connection with this article,
It's okay.
That's-
We're amateurs. We're not paying
conjecture,
for this.
whatever. We're making connections.
Conjunction.
We have for you a never-before-seen list of 7 reasons why gun control will make your family safer.
Ooh.
Just 7, not 7 plus 1, just 7.
the 7.
Just the 7. Number 1, there were no guns in the Bible. Number 2,
They're not wrong.
it allows you to trust the government to protect your family.
No thanks.
So winning.
Number 3, firing a gun gives people PTSD, which kills at least 12 million families per year.
Okay.
Number 4, there will be less conflict when your kids are taken to be raised by the state.
All right.
Number 5, if you take guns away, all bad guys instantly become good guys.
Okay.
Number 6, if you don't have a gun, you don't have to spend money on ammo. And that money can then be used to purchase more COVID masks to protect your family.
Okay.
Number 7, everyone respects laws.
That is a flawless list.
It's flawless.
Impeccable, even.
Brilliant. And now on to our politicians. Feinstein steps away from Judiciary Committee to head toward bright light. Not sure where it's going to take her,
Don't give me hope.
but we have some ideas. In other news, drunk Irishmen say they understood Biden's Dublin speech perfectly.
That,
But only
makes-
the drunk
I
ones.
can understand
But
that.
only the drunk ones. The sober ones still have no idea.
They're still trying to drink enough to understand.
And last but not least, our circus in chief came today to give thanks to that handsome Rapinoe fella for his support of trans inclusion in women's sports.
Handsome Rapinoe fella.
How inspiring.
And this has been your Vitamin B.
Splendid.
That was all kinds of lovely.
That was good.
I feel uplifted.
Especially the last one there with the gentleman Rapinoe.
Yes, that was... I'm so happy that that young man could represent us on the women's soccer team.
Yes. It's about time, really.
It's about time.
About frickin' time. So, with all that, I have a bushel for you.
Ooh, a bushel.
A bushel of things.
A bushel, yay.
And, yeah. So, it's on to this week's Naked Bushel, which is introduced via
Woohoo!
Wilhelm. Thank you, Mr. Wilhelm.
We'll have to get that Pirates of the Caribbean sound effect.
Which one?
It's the one where he's like, the first thing I'm going to do when the curse is broken, eat a whole bushel of apples.
Ooh.
That one.
That's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one.
Text that to me.
All right, I'll find that text for you. That was my best impression.
Stop,
Captain
don't come back.
Barbossa.
Yes, text that idea to me. I will make it a thing. Because
I've run out of room on this soundboard. I need another one.
Mike is trying to convince Trevor to get a new soundboard, apparently.
I'm all for it. He knows how much money's in the account,
There is not enough.
which means it falls on him to fill the void.
That is one big pile of shit.
He's left with that.
I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the Emperor's groove.
Speaking of Wilhelm screams, Emperor's grooves being thrown off, and everything else that Mike pushed,
You're welcome.
Thomas Massey confirms the conspiracy theory, quote unquote, that hospitals were incentivized to boost COVID severity, counts to get paid more.
Well, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that after the bushel.
What do you think? That's what they do. They can make up anything.
Capitol police officer that first discovered the pipe bomb on January 6th is now in jail for warning his friend to not post about being in D.C. on January 6th.
All right, I've heard enough. Deadly force authorized.
Leaked documents confirm that the U.S. and Western allies are officially operating special forces in Ukraine.
Well, that's also horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any good news this week, Trevor?
Yes, China, not so subtly letting Biden know that they have the goods on him and his family in response to congressional bank records requests.
Oh, good. Our president is corrupt. That's good news.
It's good news. Some more good news. The Ukraine war is a cover-up for the Biden family's extortion of Ukraine and laundering American taxpayer money. Changed my mind. As a stenographer from the Biden vice president administration.
So the change my mind part wasn't just Trevor commentary?
No, it is. You need to change my mind because the stenographer has been trying to talk to the FBI multiple times about his immediate interactions with Joe Biden, as he did exactly as I said, extorting Ukraine and laundering taxpayer money through Ukraine. And the FBI said, we don't need to look at that. If you were told a cult that was basically non-existent but now comprises at least 7% of the population was rapidly taking over society with ever-changing morals, would you try to stop it?
Yes.
If the youth involved in this cult experienced serious thoughts of suicide at 6 times the rate of their non-cult peers and attempted suicide at a rate of 40%, would you try to stop youth from being recruited? If the adults in this cult were adamant in being given unfettered access to your children, up to and including sexual access, would you tolerate it? If this cult started demanding everyone use their incoherent lexicon to communicate or face jail time, would you comply? If they demanded that their scriptures be included in schools and their morals taught within schools, would you allow it? If they had the backing and support of the highest powers of government and corporations, would you believe that it's something to be tolerated?
Everybody knows you never go full retard.
I mean, we all know what you're talking about.
Yes. On a completely unrelated note, CEOs are forced into woke decisions thanks to ESG, and the S is decided with CEI.
Could you explain some of those acronyms? So I already know that ESG is environmental, social, and government scores.
Yes.
There's a new thing that's being, where basically companies and so forth are being and individuals for that matter, is being judged based on how they comply with the environment or whatever. But what is CEI?
CEI is your Corporate Equality Index.
I think I've heard of that before.
I would hope you would, because American Express has a 100% perfect score in CEI. They are one of 842 companies receiving a perfect score from the Human Rights Campaign. Florida is looking to implement the death penalty for sexually abusing children. Good. And the LGBT community can't seem to comprehend how to not be punished by said bill from Florida.
In a similar note, the UN is attempting to decriminalize having sex with underage children.
Yep. That is your bushel for the week.
Thanks, Satan.
It's subtle, actually.
Yes, that will be at the end in the bushel of apples. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
be the beginning.
I think that thanks Satan should just stay forever. I
Forever.
think that's the end piece from now on.
Until I see revival, that's staying there.
Yes. Yes. Until I am thithered, that is a thing that is remaining forever.
So,
You went full retard, man.
what's the full retard from this week's bushel, Mike? He's just swiping the whole page.
All of it.
All of it.
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, we already knew about the conspiracy theory thing, so that's
It's
not
just
really
confirmation of it. It's a note from it's a document from Kentucky hospitals.
Yeah, the most concerning things to me are probably the leaked documents about the special forces. China, obviously, is always concerning.
China.
The Ukraine war being the cover-up. And, all of that.
And then all of that.
Yes, from there down.
So, the leaked documents are tied to what that 21-year-old guy, I need to remember his name, because I believe he's a hero. Based off
which one?
We know about the special forces officially because they're tied into the guy that leaked the documents on the Discord server.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we know about it. That's also how we know that Zelensky and the generals of Ukraine have been siphoning money.
The
off
soon-to-be
of
court-martialed military guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for being a whistleblower. However, if you're a whistleblower in the military against Donald Trump or other conservatives, you are given book deals and deals with CNN, and everyone will pay for your sex change.
If you're a whistleblower against the left,
court-martialed and
you get tied to a tree and throw your shotgun in a way that it executes you from a long distance away.
You hang yourself from a tree and then shoot yourself in the gut with a shotgun, and the shotgun flies 30 feet away. That's what happens the other way around.
That's what happens the other way around.
Officially.
It's a very, very strange thing to do to yourself. I don't know why you would whistleblow and then go off and be like that, but
yeah. The China stuff. Stop with the pop-ups.
That's what she said.
Is it? Get rid of the mobile. There we go.
So talk more about how our president is corrupt.
Yeah, so
let me count the ways.
I have mixed feelings about this. So Congress has sent out a request to multiple banks to see bank records of the Biden family. All of them have denied the request except for this bank.
From China.
What bank?
A Chinese-American bank supplied Senate Republicans with records showing millions of dollars flowing Chinese companies to Mr. Biden's son, Hunter Biden, and brother, James Biden. Cathay Bank, which is based in L.A., but has offices in China. Ergo, Chinese bank. I have mixed feelings about it because I'm not exactly happy that we're getting information from the Chinese about an American president. However, I also want to know if the Chinese have damning / incriminating / blackmail information on an American president, because I don't know. China only finished a blockade practice of Taiwan the other weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, and if China decides to follow through with war with Taiwan and take Taiwan as its own, the U.S. will experience an immediate 9% loss in GDP.
Yeah, immediate.
Which, to put that in perspective, the Great Depression was 5.3 loss in GDP.
Yeah. And China has only been forming a small alliance of countries and then went and brokered a peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran, both of whom hate us.
Yeah. Well, we were allies.
Vehemently.
We were allies with Saudi Arabia. No. Saudi Arabia had no choice.
We had Saudi Arabia with their balls in a vice.
Uh-huh.
There's a difference between being friends and having someone's balls in a vice.
You will do what we say or else. Yeah. Oh, and China also said that if they take Taiwan, they're destroying the chip manufacturing. So they're not.
They're going to destroy the
they're
chip
not going to be
manufacturing.
exporting the chips.
Yes.
Well,
if they take Taiwan, they will plunge the world into chaos.
Yeah.
They will completely tank the world economy.
And the only chips you would be able to get would be Chinese chips.
Yes.
Which absolutely will not have any kind of tracking or nefarious things attached to them.
Yeah.
Our president sucks so much.
I have never hated a leader
I can't-
so much in my life.
I
Because he's not a leader.
I can hardly count the way, like I can hardly keep track of just how awful he has been on foreign policy. And I know the average American doesn't care about foreign policy until the bullets start flying, but gosh dang it, this is going to have some downstream effects. And if or when China invades Taiwan, it's going to change civilization as we know it. If he destroys the chip manufacturing things, like I don't know what's on the other side of that. That is just horrifying.
So that 9% loss is just the chip manufacturing.
Yeah.
It's not China's not trading with us hit to GDP.
Oh,
either.
Add that. Everything's made in China.
Everything's made in China.
Made in China.
All of the freaking electric cars they're trying to force them to sell in 2030. Can't make them. Why? Because we won't mine our own rare earth materials to make electric cars, among other things, in our own backyard, because China will supply it to us. Oh, it's okay. If you're on medications of any type, 90+% of that comes from China.
Yeah.
So hospitals, crippled. Electric infrastructure, crippled. Tech, crippled. From this one event, should it happen.
Yeah.
And Biden, according to this article, his family is, like Mike said, their balls are in a vice. And China's in control of the vice. Good job, guys. Good freaking job.
I have to say, Trump's foreign policy was like an A. Like, it was excellent.
Yeah, something about America first, and how about we make it here?
Yeah.
And let's incentivize things to move here and build here.
But no, you didn't want any mean tweets.
Didn't want any mean tweets, and Biden was genius by telling the whole world we need to have a 25% corporate tax. Meanwhile, China and Russia are sitting there with 10% or less corporate tax.
The U.S. imports roughly $400 billion worth of goods a year.
Yeah, those giant containers.
From China.
Those giant container ships that come from China and stop in California. They unload in California and they go back to China empty.
Yeah, and we only export about $150 billion to them. So that's $250 billion net loss.
China can eat that loss.
Yeah.
When trade stops between the two countries.
Actually, would you...
Would I?
Would you add that or subtract that for the loss on that? Because on one hand, we're not able to receive those goods from them anymore. Mm-hmm. We're also not able to receive the money from selling things to them anymore. So we're losing kind of on both sides of that.
Yes.
Like our economy is losing the $400 billion worth of goods that would then be sold in our economy. And we're also losing $150 billion worth of goods that we are selling overseas.
I presume a chunk of the goods that we're selling to China is probably oil and soy.
Most likely.
Is most likely what we're selling to China. Soy could be used for food, mostly used for energy, oil, whatever. China doesn't care about the food part. They don't care if their people starve. Oil, China's brokering deals with Russia and the Middle East, so they don't care about oil anymore. They're covered. I just don't like to get involved. This is what happens when you don't like to get involved. Your whole world is hanging in the balance by a madman that thinks he's God and a dementia-riddled man that thinks he's God.
That thinks that the first guy is God.
Yes.
Let's be clear. And let me clarify. The import of Chinese goods actually increased to $538.8 billion in 2022. So
just slightly
bigger.
Yeah.
Just a little bigger.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be a hit at all.
Well, if we go to war, we can do like we did in World War II and re-gear our manufacturers. We don't have manufacturers in the United States.
We've exported them all. Because
if you look on the side of your car, it says assembled in Canada.
Yeah.
Well, it's a U.S. company. Yes, their office is in Michigan, USA, or wherever it is. Yeah. But the plant that actually makes the stuff, not here.
Generally.
It's in Mexico.
Which is why Trump was trying to cut business taxes and do all these incentives for businesses to bring their business back to the States.
And to make it easier to start business in the United States.
But, you know, when you run a government based on the idea that companies and profit are bad, it tends to make people that want companies and profit go
away
somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the manufacturing stuff that we do have here, it's okay. Most of our steel comes from overseas anyway. And most of our aluminum. And most of our plastic.
Not to say that we don't have the resources to do all of those things here.
It's just we're not putting a B-24 bomber off the assembly line every 3 hours. That's not happening again.
No. No. And with the current work ethic of the current population of the U.S.,
way too many people would not be willing to take a cut to save their to save their way of life.
Yeah.
You mean I have to take overtime without pay?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to survive. Unless you want to be speaking Chinese, I suggest you get yourself willing to work a little overtime.
Yeah. All those kids that thought that working at Starbucks was stressful are going to save this country.
It's okay. The Air Force.
We're doomed.
Air Force is making sure they have drag shows on the aircraft carriers and stuff.
Oh,
so we're fine.
Won't that be
the Navy? Sorry, the Navy.
In the Navy.
The Navy.
Yeah, that'll be helpful.
Did you
for our military.
Did you ever see that article about the Navy's first all-female? Or no, it was Navy's first all LGBT.
No, I didn't hear about
helicopter
that.
crew.
How did that go?
The top comment under the story was, well, "This is rude. I thought the Navy was always gay." That had to have been a Marine or Army or someone.
Of course it did. Of course it did. All right. All right.
Yeah, Ukraine's basically the war that we have that gives any kind of support for myself is a war with China.
Yes.
But not one that we start.
Yes.
War in Ukraine, we should have zero reason to be over there. The main export of Ukraine is wheat, why in the world do we need wheat when we live in
The United States.
the United States, which is the breadbasket of the world?
Yeah, amber waves of grain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, CEOs being forced into woke decisions. If they don't do stuff that gets the company closer to that 100 perfect score of a CEI score, they won't get their bonuses.
CEOs won't?
Yes.
Who's forcing them to do that?
The board.
The board.
The board of the company that they are the CEO for?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like of every
of all the big corporations.
Big corporations?
Of 842 at least corporations.
So what you're saying is that the LGBT people, they infiltrated the boards and now
yes,
they're like requiring compliance with this diversity, equity, and inclusion score, CEI score.
Yes.
What did you say that stood for again?
Corporate Equity Index.
Gotcha.
It's been going on for the last 20 years.
My goodness.
From the Human Rights Campaign. Some notes for it. 842 best places to work for LGBTQ plus equality. 138 newly rated companies. 379 Fortune 500 employers actively participated in 2022 CEI. And 152 American law magazines, 200 law firms actively participated in the 2021 CEI.
So, I just want to point something out. I'm totally for, not discriminating against LGBT people or whatever. Like to give them business opportunities, give them equal opportunity. I'm totally in favor of that. But if this score is implying that you need to favor those people, wouldn't you be discriminating against everyone that is not that?
No,
Yes.
no, because you can't be racist to white people.
Oh. Well, that's comforting.
Are you saying that all black people are gay? That's racist. You sexist, racist bigot, you.
Yes, so
Anyway,
I looked
that's
up
just my opinion.
I looked up a couple of employers, and you can look at the details of the companies, and some of the stuff they do, some of the stuff they score on is workforce protections. Policy includes sexual orientation for all operations. Policy includes gender identity or expression for all operations. Inclusive benefits. Equivalency in same and different sex spousal, medical, and soft benefits. Equivalency in same and different sex domestic partner, medical, and soft benefits. Equal health coverage for transgender individuals without exclusion for medically necessary care. Sub-reporting and inclusive culture and corporate social responsibility. 3, LGBTQ internal training and education best practices. Employee group or diversity council. 3, district efforts of outreach or engagement to broader LGBTQ community. LGBTQ corporate social responsibility. And points are deduced for responsible citizenship stuff, if any. That's how they get their score.
So that's a trend in general corporate America, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Basically, are you having gender training or whatever type stuff like that? Are you letting it or requiring people to put their pronouns on their emails or work profiles?
Yeah.
Fun things like that, because that's what's important. Not, getting product out the door. That's tertiary. We got to focus on what really matters of, are you going to use the right pronoun on me? No, I think I will use the right pronoun. Whether or not you agree that's the right pronoun is a whole nother thing. But pronoun is for the third person to decide, not the first person to decide. Last I checked, that's how English works, but we've also thrown that book out the window. Yes. This one just baffled my mind because, like I mentioned, Florida is basically saying, don't diddle the kids and you won't be executed. Seems pretty straightforward. And
You'd think.
you would think. However, intomore.com is one of many places that have articles that have something like this. Florida has somehow become an even more lethal place to live for queer and trans Americans thanks to the passage of 2 new bills. The first, SB 1342, stipulates that sexual child abuse and acts of pedophilia may be punishable by the death penalty. The second bill would make it easier for a jury to send the accused to the gallows. According to Reuters, the bill, quote, allows juries to recommend the death penalty in capital cases on an 8-4 vote, end quote, instead of a unanimous vote.
And so how is the bill, worded, is what I want to know. Who could face the death penalty exactly according to the law?
According to the law.
Not the LGBT narrative, not according to the media narrative.
There's the bill text.
So child rape subject to the death penalty.
Uh-huh.
And the media is saying that's bad for LGBT people? Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
You realize what the media is implying there.
Yeah. We've been reassured multiple times, including they did the little song about it to mock it of, we're not coming for your kids. We just want adults to be able to do blah, 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 blah. One slippery slope argument later, and here we are. It just seems odd that every time every time this movement tries to say that's not actually happening, and conservatives turn around and be like, okay, well, we'll pass a law just to make sure that doesn't happen. Well, that's very hateful of you to do that. But you said it's not happening. You were actually rather offended that I would suggest that it was happening. So I'm making a law to make sure it never happens. And now you're upset that it's never going to happen. So are you doing it, or were you planning on doing it? No, we're not. Not going to rape children.
Okay, because
we just want to make sure that the age of consent is lowered, according to the UN.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's bad.
It's very bad.
Yeah, so the UN can suggest all it wants. States like Florida that pass things like this can say, "Screw you and the high horse you rode in on."
Hold on, the UN is not even a lawmaking body.
And
like what?
They are not a recognized lawmaking body.
However, if you poll the average American on the street and ask them if the UN passes laws that must be followed by every country.
Oh, yeah, of course. The people.
The UN passes
the
laws.
people on the street videos, those might as well be called your dumb videos.
Uh-huh. That being said, a quote stolen from Steve Dace. We are not a country of laws and never have been. We are a country of political will and always will be. Because, there's all kinds of laws on the books that stop all kinds of the madness that we see. Just, it's not being enforced. There's all kinds of unwritten laws that society has agreed upon for centuries, just not being enforced because, I don't want to. They're doing their thing, and it's not affecting me, so I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get political.
So let's see, what are they advocating? Like it seems to me like they're not even recommending a different age.
No, they're just recommending that the age of consent, no matter where the country is, be lowered.
What in the actual?
Because there's some countries where the age of consent is 16, 14, things like that. And they're recommending it be lowered. Just across the board.
Yeah.
Because that won't lead to hellfire and brimstone.
Right. Yeah. No, I do understand that like different ages in history, have had different standards on these things, but we have our standard now. Let's stick to it, please.
Here's the real fun thing with the Florida bill. Senator Lauren Brooke, a plantation Democrat, is in favor of the bill.
Of what bill?
The Florida bill to execute child diddlers.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't be? Well, okay, Democrats.
Asked and answered.
I know.
But she was a victim of child sexual abuse who founded the advocacy organization.
Oh, the senator. The senator was a victim of child abuse.
Yes.
Nice.
Did you say nice?
No. I mean, that's understandable is what I mean. It's like, that would affect her. Okay, fine.
That
nice.
took a turn.
You guys know what I mean.
Yes, and we will laugh at it the whole
I need
time.
to work on my automatic responses.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, she was a victim of child abuse, sexual abuse, huh? Nice. What?
Yeah. She says there's no statute of limitations that a victim suffers, which is true. This is a life sentence that is handed down to young children. Yes, which is why the utmost punishment needs to be applied to this. Because it just destroys their mentality for the rest of their lives. I still deal with the very real lasting effects of this crime. It never goes away, she said, adding, I don't get a chance to make it stop. Now, they're suggesting that it might not last because back in 2008, the Supreme Court turned down a Louisiana law that did essentially the same thing in a 5-4 decision.
death penalty for pedophiles, like sexual abusers of children, basically.
And DeSantis and the Florida legislature are hopeful that when this goes to court, because obviously it is based off the backlash, they're hoping that the more conservative aligned justices will hold the line on that.
Yeah.
However, I'm also not holding my breath with those justices because they've made terrible rulings, the conservative side.
Yeah. They've made plenty of good ones, but yeah. Many are apt to criticism.
You'll stand firm on the abortion thing, but then something less trivial than that comes up and you just collapse. Why?
I was shocked that Roe v. Wade got overturned.
I think
I was shocked. That
most people were, I believe.
But very thrilled as well.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all that stuff that I got.
Sweet.
So now I have a little present.
Oh yeah, present.
Let me make sure. I do this right. Oopsie doodles. There we go. We'll do that. So now we have Keith has been doing some deep research on some stuff.
Oh, it's been depressing, but yes.
And since it is Keith's time to shine, I made a thing. Mike has his own thing. Now Keith.
What is this?
Keith has his own thing. And this is a segment that I will forever now call Knowledge Keith Knows.
I know what sound effect you're going to use.
However,
don't do it. When something doesn't work, you need to keep doing it harder and with more intensity. That's what I've learned. Saying, yeah, you disapprove of me, but you bought my plushie. Got sidetracked by the Satanic Temple. Holy bananas. That's bananas, you guys. So that's how I learned eggnog is alcoholic. Did I say a dirty joke without realizing it? I would like to be surprised. This is me trying to be surprised.
There you go. Knowledge Keith knows.
I have to say something in Keith's defense. This is for you, Trevor.
You're not wrong, Walter. You're just an asshole.
Mike, are you as happy as you are because you're not the only one with a thing anymore, or because it actually was hilarious?
That one was way, way better than mine is. You need to redo mine. That was great. La, 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 la. Did I just tell a dirty joke? That's probably my favorite Keith quote of all time. And it's in that stinger. That's great. Did I just tell a dirty joke?
So yes, you have that to look forward to every time.
I love it.
We go.
I love it. No, that's thank you for editing that.
It's okay.
So
it'll be back.
I learned today.
It'll be back at the end of the thing.
Best April miracle ever.
Best April miracle ever.
Okay.
So, there's one more I can think of that might have been slightly.
Second most. Okay.
Slightly
fair
above.
enough. Fair enough.
Just squeaking it out.
Just a little bit.
Well, sometimes Easter takes place in March, so
Valid. I'll allow it. Anyway, dispense your knowledge on us.
Okay, so this week's segment is on basically it's on the depression and suicide statistics of the last 12, 13 years or so. I bet you can guess what direction it's going.
That's depressing.
It's only going up.
Yeah, are people becoming more
Well,
depressed?
no, it's depressed, so it's going down.
But you got to turn that frown
Upside down.
Sounds like a syndrome to me.
Yes.
Okay, so there was a 225-page document that I intended to read the entire thing, but I ended up skimming the entire thing. But I highlighted some of it, and I'm going to highlight or share some of those highlights with you.
Yay!
So the name of this document, it's a new study that was released. I think it's officially unofficial, but it's been making the rounds online, and it's horrifying. The trends are as you might expect, but they are like much stronger trends than you might intuitively think.
Right.
So the name of this is, the name of the reference is called Hyde, J. and Twenge. I can't even pronounce these publishers' names. Adolescent Mood Disorders Since 2010, a collaborative review. And this is considered an unpublished manuscript, and they're from New York University.
So it's not peer-reviewed, technically? Or it is peer-reviewed, just not published?
I suppose so. A lot of the 225 pages of this document is just going over like the scope of the study. So a lot of it is just academic speak for like, these are the circumstances in which this study was made. But I have to say, like, when I was reviewing that, it was the rigor of it was actually quite impressive. Like the sample size was often in the hundreds of thousands. Like it was very, like it seemed very solid.
That all being said, I really don't care if it's peer reviewed at this point either. Yeah, because I mean
that's
been proven to be not reliable.
Well, the thing is like the more I read this document, the more I was like, yep, that's in line with my intuition. Like it's almost like you don't need this collaborative study to like know.
You can just
what's in here. You can just kind of like go on social media or
can just
meet someone,
follow a hunch and get it right.
You know, meet someone that's following the trends of their day, and like you'll get an idea of what direction this is going.
One direction.
But anyway, Trevor, I sent you the graphs that I wanted to go over.
Yes.
So let's take a look at the graphs that.
Seriously, this time graphs, right?
Yes.
Seriously.
No, I failed.
Did you send us a blank email, Keith?
I did. Like it was in
we
a different
need an admonish
format,
button.
and so I had to
admonish. I have one. It's special, and it's just for Keith.
Wrong.
Well, thank you for that.
Wrong.
I know what button you're gonna push. Anyway.
Okay. So the very first graph is the percentage of U.S. teens with major depression. What I find interesting is that the female percent increase is actually lower than the boys, but the girls is sky high, which means the depression rate among teenage girls was actually fairly high even before the spike. So yeah, in 2004 it was around 13%, and now in I think that's 2021, 2022, something like that. It's at just under 30%. So it's basically doubled. Right. And it was sky high before, so that's a 145 increase in major depression is what they label it as. I'm not really sure what that means precisely, but yeah, major depression. And then boys, their major depression rate was about 5% in 2004, and now it's around 12%. So again, that's a 161% increase since 2010.
Huh.
So yeah, 145% increase for girls, 161% for boys. But again, the girls was already at a fairly high rate, and so.
And an observation I'm making right away. Did something happen in 2020?
Something interesting is the spike in 2020, because like the trend is actually pretty high, but then in 2020 it seems to go exponential.
Yes.
And yeah, we all know what happened there. Could you imagine trying to date during the pandemic? Could you imagine that?
I'd rather not try to imagine that.
Fortunately, I was married already, so don't have to think about that. But gosh, dang it. I'm so glad I didn't have to live through that.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, major teen depression. I mean, these graphs all say the same thing, basically. Okay, go to the next one. United States teens admitted to hospitals for non-fatal self-harm. So for girls, it was 188% increase since 2010, and boys 48% increase since 2012. And once again, girls are sky high.
So now the question here, because this is admitted to hospitals for non-fatal self-harm. So does this graph show that girls exponentially committed more self-harm than boys in this period, and their increase was exponentially greater? Or does it show that boys were much more successful?
Yes, it does show that. I actually don't.
Or boys are more successful at hiding their failed attempt.
Oh, yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, another thing is I actually don't have the actual suicide statistics in here just because, again, it was 200 and something pages.
There's so many.
But that's actually on page 128.
Good Lord.
The U.S. teen suicides, so this is ages 15 to 19, and it's kind of the reverse. The boys' suicides increased by 34% since 2010, and girls, their actual suicides was 82% since 2010, which is horrifying. Like, both of those statistics are horrifying.
Yeah,
but
horrifying.
Because the boy suicide rate was already sky high, the increase is actually less among boys.
Yeah.
And girls, the increase was actually really high because their successful suicide attempts was actually, I mean, comparatively, at least compared to the boys, fairly low. So in the year 2000, the girl suicide rate, so the rate per 100,000 population, it was about 2.5 per 100,000 per year in the year 2000, and then in the year 2020 it was 5. So
doubled.
It about doubled. Apparently, it was not quite 2.5 in the year 2000. I'm guessing the numbers here. That's why the increases don't quite match up.
It's only a fire hose of data contained in 250 pages.
Right. So I'm trying to, and then for boys, their per 100,000 population in the year 2000 was about, it looks like 13, which already what is that? Like 5 times more than girls in the year 2000, because theirs was about 2.5, maybe 3, and theirs is like 13. So that's like 5 times higher than girls.
Ish.
And in the year 2020, their successful suicide rate per 100,000 was about 16. So it's about 3 times higher in 2020 and like 5 times higher in the year 2000.
Right.
But in both cases, like a huge increase.
Yes. Any increase on that front is a bad increase.
is horrifying.
Yeah.
And then the next graph that I actually emailed to you is the percentage of United States anxiety prevalence. So again, I have been lucky enough to not have to suffer with mental issues all that much.
This one's excluding what I believe is a crucial date.
Do either of you know exactly what anxiety is? Like, I think I know what it is, but maybe it would be good for someone else to like.
So, I mean, I don't know what the actual definition of it is. I could look it up. But from my understanding, anxiety is essentially a you know what the fight or flight response is, right?
Okay.
So fight or flight is basically a button that our brain pushes when something needs to be dealt with.
Okay.
So
that's
we either
the definition that I was
we either stand up to it or we run away from it. And it's a button because you hit the button, the action is taken, and then the button comes off, and you're fine.
So it's almost like you're panicked without a cause.
Anxiety is the button's broken, the button is on all the time.
Okay.
Or on for a significantly longer period of time.
The button is stuck.
Yeah, the button is stuck.
Okay,
basically,
so you basically feel
essentially
panicked, but
anxiety
without
is.
knowing exactly why.
It's my understanding of it is basically a mix of those two things at the same time.
Yeah.
You have so much you need to get done, but you can't get it done, so I just want to go and hide.
Yeah. So it's
so it's a mix of fight and flight at the same time.
Yeah. Yes. So it's fear, dread, uneasiness, restlessness, being tense, being stressed. It's all of that bundled together.
And much like depression, it's not solved with a simple, we'll just get it done.
It's more or less from what I've heard about it, it more or less just sounds like an extreme adrenaline dump in all of the wrong spots for you.
Yeah.
Like
nothing productive.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, I'm not saying that I understand it fully because I don't feel like I've really experienced that myself. But again, I definitely do know that it's serious and it's a real thing. And the statistics are saying that it is increasing very rapidly. So ages 18 through 25, as you might imagine, has increased by 92% since 2010. So that means that I believe this is the percentage of the entire population that was surveyed, which again, the general sense in the academic part of these graphs is like the samples are in the hundreds of thousands. So it's a very good sample. So 92% increase in 18 to 25-year-olds, 62% increase from 26 to 34-year-olds, and 18% increase for 35 to 49-year-olds, and 50-year-old plus, it's a 7% a decrease.
It's because you realize that no matter what you do, death is coming. So, whatever. But it's also the development of the mind, because the mind, there's mixed things on it, but I think the general agreement is by around 30 years old, your mind is fully developed.
Yeah.
Which kind of corresponds with this, where 35 to 49-year-olds.
And let's be real honest.
Fairly steady there.
Let's be real honest here.
Yeah.
The boomers and Gen X, they just don't give a shit.
No.
That's
no, but I think that's also the mind thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, again, you also have to take into account like what they experienced, like what their cultures were before that. And we'll get more into that later here. And then moving on to Canada.
Yay, Canada.
So this is excellent or very good mental health in Canadian men. And obviously the graph is like not quite nosediving, but it's a very obvious
similar
decrease.
results, just an inverse.
Yeah, exactly.
Question.
So similar results. Canadian women, even worse. Like that one's a nosedive, especially from 15 to 30-year-old women. 29% decrease since 2009 in having excellent mental health. So again, so go to the next graph there.
The next graph.
Yeah. So
holy crap.
In 2003, yeah, it's a nosedive. In 2003, the population that they surveyed was about 75%, 76%, somewhere around there, had excellent or very good mental health in 2003. And it actually, it appears to have gone up slightly between 2003 and 2007, maybe 2009. It looks like it was flat between 2007 and 2009. And then between 2009 and 2019, it went from about 86 or 87% down to about 55% of women having excellent mental health. So most of the population, you could assume they were doing fine. You know, there was a segment, but now almost half have less than very good or excellent mental health.
Are these self-reported studies?
No. So
or is this actual diagnoses?
That is a good question,
because that could be a big factor in that too.
Yeah. So I will go over the criticisms of these in just a little bit. I'm actually not sure we'll be able to get through all the material I have. The next graph, I'll try to go through these a little bit more. Anxiety and depression, again, it's just skyrocketing. And this is in England, by the way. So we're doing different countries. Different countries. Oh, and this is a graph that
It's not just a U.S. thing. It's a global
This is a graph that I tacked on the end here. I should have had this with the U.S. Graphs. But the percentage of undergraduates diagnosed with a mental illness. So I believe the criteria for this one is in a certain population among several, well, I would imagine more than several universities. It's the undergraduates who went in to get diagnosed for a mental, or because they had problems and then were diagnosed with a mental illness.
Holy crap. Anorexia doubled
Yeah.
since 2010.
Yeah, and that's a very serious one. And yeah, anxiety and depression up over 100% since 2010. Now, that brings us to the criticisms of some of these. So we do need to take some of this with a grain of salt because, again, there's no denying that the causes of things like depression and suicide is very, it's very nuanced.
Yes.
And so we can't really say any of this with any real confidence. But Trevor, do you happen to have the link to the full Google document?
Yes. I think it's this one.
Yeah, so go to page 5.
Cautions and caveats.
Yeah. Okay, so cautions and caveats. So these are some of the things that you should these are grains of salt that we should take these with. I think I used that metaphor correctly.
Yes.
So some of the criticisms on that. So again, for example, the undergrads with diagnosed mental illnesses, that graph would go up, but they're also saying that young people today are probably more willing than previous generations to admit symptoms and seek out and accept diagnosis.
Correct.
And so this may contribute to the rise in some trends and data sets, particularly for depression and anxiety, which is exactly what that graph showed. So the question that we're left to wonder that the data do not show is this a real increase or is this just people going in and being diagnosed when they never actually sought help in previous generations? That's a question that the data don't really answer. And the next one is, I'm just going to read this paragraph. There's a risk of moral panic. The popular press loves to report on problems with kids today, especially it can be linked to new technology that kids today use, such as the smartphone and social media. So we all must be cautious about believing the steady stream of reports in the American and British press about the mental health crisis. We must look at the original studies and the raw data sets, and we must invite researchers to offer conflicting interpretations. So in other words, apparently, again, I didn't live through the 70s, but apparently when television was becoming mainstream, there was a moral panic then, saying, oh no, that's going to rot their brains, which frankly was probably true. But obviously it's getting worse.
Right.
Anyway, so point is, mental health, depression, it's getting worse across the board. And so that brings us to what are the causes of these changes, which...
Well, I would like to postulate right there that veganism has also doubled since 2012. So either veganism is the cause of all these mental illnesses, or veganism is itself a mental illness that is also being affected by these things. So I'm just going to... slip that right in there.
I don't think that's a terrible argument that veganism is a social contagion. I don't think that's a terrible argument. Okay, so in
one of the two.
In the document, it gives 3 reasons. This is on page 4. It gives 3, they call them theories as to what is causing this, and this is nothing more than they say that these are nothing more than theories.
These are things that correlated with timelines on the graph.
So the 3 theories they have is the rapid adoption of smartphones and the rapid spread of social media. I mean, our intuition would basically agree. If you ask someone on the street, they'd probably say that. Why is depression getting so much worse? I bet a lot of people would intuitively believe it's social media and smartphones and stuff. The number 2 reason is changes to parenting practices, particularly the loss of autonomy and unsupervised play. And then,
I would say that one's probably a huge part of it.
Yeah, I think so too. And then economic factors, including global financial crisis and the rise of inequality. Unfortunately, the link that they had for the summary of their arguments, that link was broken, so I wasn't able to read the actual study. It just linked back to another article on the parenting practice thing. So But those are the three qualities. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail.
Oh, it opened for me.
What?
I'm sorry. I should.
All right. Well,
that's fun.
It put in a redirect link, but I just clicked OK and it went right over to it. I can send you the not broken.
Well, I'm not
going
to read it live.
It's what's so wrong with helicopter parenting.
No. So that is a link that I did, but that's not the economic argument.
Oh,
is it not?
No,
Okay.
that's the helicopter parent argument. Like that was number 2. So it's related to number 2, not number 3.
You're right. They have the same link in both. That's why.
Yeah.
Oh no, they have 2 different links in that, but they're both leading to the same kind of article. Interesting.
Anyway, so I'm going to sum up the argument, the summary of the arguments. So I'm just giving you a summary of the summary. So the article that sums up the smartphone as what's to blame for this rise in depression.
Oh no, that is the right article. It mentions the love, money, and parenting. All that is in this article.
For the economic conditions?
For the economic thing. It's part of that, the real reason behind the rise of the helicopter
merged
parent.
into one article.
It's all one article there. Yeah.
Oh, weird. Okay, well.
So it is the correct article.
All right, then.
Anyway, moving on.
All right, so the first argument, so apparently millennials are a highly individualistic generation, and it's one of those questions: did smartphones cause them to be individualistic, or are they into smartphones because they're individualistic? That's a question that we can ponder, but around 2012 is when the depression statistics really started to change. And would you like to know what happened in 2012?
Yes, please.
That is when
veganism really took off.
That's true.
Mike's got a bone to pick.
Funnily enough,
Yes,
2012 was actually the year that I adopted veganism for a little bit. So
one of us.
One of us.
The veganism part didn't last, but I did call myself a vegetarian for like 2 years. I was terrible at being a vegetarian, though.
Yes, we're all individuals.
But no, that is an example of a social contagion.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That was
anyway.
Hold on, that was 2012?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 2012 is the year that a majority of Americans owned a smartphone. And
that's when it flipped to over 50%.
To over 50%. That's when it flipped. Yeah. So 2007 is when the iPhone came out, which really changed the landscape of smartphones, because before, like, they were getting smarter, but it was still very limited in what they could do.
Still remember the first smartphone I had.
2007, you say?
And yeah, 2007 is when the iPhone was released, and Steve Jobs got up on stage and said that you can have the real internet in your pocket. Because before then, all the devices had, like, you couldn't surf on it like you could surf on like your computer, and surfing the internet on your iPhone is very similar to the desktop experience.
And social media
and
became
even better nowadays.
And social media became extremely popular 2010.
I mean, probably. That sounds right to me. I don't have that statistic in front of me, but probably.
Huh.
And then in 2017, the smartphone ownership is 75%.
Sorry.
Trevor has a hunch.
I followed a hunch, and I was right again.
Care to share?
Freaking
Is that
right
like
again.
4 tonight? Jeez, man.
What would you like to share there, Trevor?
I'll have to somehow get this link. But it's a long-term antidepressant use.
Uh-huh.
From 2000 to 2014.
Are you saying they're correlated?
5 years or more. 2006, 2008, it starts to spike up from its general trend. Then it starts to go flat, and then about 2010.
Around 2010, huh?
Around 2010.
And so you're saying that the antidepressants spiked in 2010?
The long-term antidepressant use.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Started around then.
And that's nationwide, yes?
American adults, yeah.
Okay. So again, continuing to sum up this article here. So teens are less likely to date. They're less likely to want to get driver's license. They're less likely to manage their own money. Basically, as a whole, they are much more likely to be content just being a homebody. Why are they so content being a homebody and not doing all these things that previous generations just wanted to do more than anything? Because they lived their social lives on phones, so the article alleges. They're fine with being on their phone alone in their room for as long as they can. There was a 40% drop in teens who get together with friends between 2000 and 2015, which is really, really sad. And according to this Atlantic article, teens who spend more time on average on their phones than non-screen time are more... Wait. Did I get that backwards? Are less likely to be happy.
Right.
Yeah. But then the next sentence in the article, they said there's not a single exception. All screen activities are linked to less happiness.
It's because you're getting that dopamine firing in your brain, but there's nothing to actually connect it to.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the Atlantic article with the allegation is all of this is linked to smartphones.
I thought it was mostly due to blue light.
That exhale
That
said so much.
I have never been so threatened by a sigh in my life.
Let him have it, Keith. Just smack him.
No, I feel like some of the time I just don't get Mike's jokes.
That's
Okay.
fine. It's fine, Keith.
So moving on to the fragile generation theory. I'm sorry, that's the name of the article. Moving on to the helicopter parents' practices. The gist of the article is that parents are too darn safe with their kids. Can you leave the kids alone, or can you let the kids go to the park alone? No, something might happen. Can you leave them at home alone? No, something might happen. They can't use tools. They can't climb trees. It's all too dangerous. Oh no, Timmy. Oh no, Timmy came home in tears because he didn't win the basketball game. We better stop keeping score. Oh no, Timmy didn't get a trophy even after he worked so hard. We'd better give out participation trophies. And so basically by trying to keep... So this is a quote from the article. By trying to keep children safe from all risks, obstacles, hurt feelings, and fears, our culture has taken away the opportunities they need to become successful adults. In treating them as fragile, emotionally, socially, and physically, society actually makes them so.
No risks, no reward.
The only thing worse than a helicopter parent is a lawnmower parent.
Gas or electric?
Yes.
Ah.
No. That's actually those are two very different things. So helicopter parent is a phrase used to reference a parent that is constantly hovering over their child. They're constantly watching, they're constantly there, but they're not always constantly rescuing.
Right.
Lawnmower parents both hover and constantly rescue. They constantly have to remove obstacles from their child. They constantly have to prevent the child from being harmed, prevent the child from experiencing anything that they would see as painful.
Yes.
And so that's the lawnmower parent. The lawnmower parent goes and mows down everything in their child's path.
Right.
Yeah. So
Make a nice, clean,
the only
happy
thing
valley
worse
for
than a
them.
helicopter parent is a lawnmower parent.
Yeah, I've been... So with moving to our new neighborhood, we live in an awesome neighborhood where our street is off of the main road. Both of you guys have been there. There's no cars going through that road unless they live on that road or it's Amazon or some contractor or something or other. So kids are always just up and down that road playing whatever. It's a whole new experience for our kids because where we lived before, couldn't really make that happen, and there weren't really kids living where we lived before either. So now it's a whole new experience for my wife and I of finding that balance where we need to know where our 7-year-old boy is at, where he's going, just so we know where we can find him if we need to.
Yeah.
While also not being that helicopter parent with him
Yeah.
all the time. And we've had some successes and some unsuccesses and stuff, and he's catching on really well, and he's having fun, and he'll say, I'm going outside to go play with so-and-so because he sees them come home from school. Like, okay, go have fun. Step it down to the younger kids. My youngest, he had a hard time every time he fell down. It was the worst thing that ever happened to him.
Right.
And so I started doing, every time he falls down, instead of panicking or whatever, I started responding to him, oh, did you have a conka-bonk? Did you have a conka-bonk? Just try and be happy in that moment. And so his things went from crying for a while about it to he comes over for a quick hug and then he's off playing.
Right.
And I think finding things like that with your children can help them.
Yeah.
You recognize that, yes, pain happened, but it's not the end of the world.
Right.
Can I be a bird parent?
A bird parent?
Oh, where you push your kid out of the nest and they...
Good luck.
Have fun.
Dude,
fly or die.
apparently, legally, you can do that when you're 18.
Don't birds
Damn.
often, not with 100% success rate, but don't they often actually manage to catch their baby birds when they fall down?
Usually.
Or was that a lie that my elementary school teachers taught me?
I assume they try to catch them.
I presume it's as true as George Washington chopping a cherry tree.
All right, I'll have to fact check that one because I just realized that the bird learning how to fly thing, that's something that I haven't thought about since elementary school, and that's what they taught me. So I need to fact check that one.
I am willing to bet that's a teacher that wanted to let you know, no, the baby
bird will be fine.
Not that, yeah, sometimes the bird doesn't fly.
All right. Well, anyway, I'll have to fact check that analogy that I was taught all these years. Okay. So a little bit more on this. So some of the mainstream, like, how do I put this? Let's say that the causes that the media projects very often, so what's causing all this? I mean, we just went over the academic ones, but some of the mainstream theories is like maybe it's bullying, maybe people are less tolerant. But the problem with bullying is it's not like there's more bullying now than there was 50 years ago. Schools are taking bullying very seriously these days.
Very serious.
So serious.
Serious as a heart attack.
And is the depression and suicide rate increasing because people are less tolerant? I'm going to go no on that one.
No.
So I was going through a variety of sources, to find kind of a deeper meaning on this. So I'm going to thank Ben Shapiro for pointing me to this source. In 1897, there was a book written called On Suicide. He covers this in his episode 1699, Ben Shapiro does, where he talks about this book. And it's very compelling, if you ask me, because it has a lot of ancient wisdom in there that is not, how do I put this? It doesn't include all the psychological axioms of our day.
If this is ancient wisdom, you must read in Tibetan accent.
Well, German again.
German. Well, that's fine too.
This is a German author. I actually don't know his background, but
Jawohl.
But this is what he this is what he I feel like alleges is
alleged
right word.
Allegedly.
Purports. This is what he purports.
Okay.
In his book. So, again, this was back in 1897, where he studied the German suicide rate, and he came to a few conclusions. So basically, he said that when social institutions start to break down, when they people start to feel a loss of meaning or connection to the society to which they belong, and that's when the suicide rate starts to go up.
Good thing that's not happening.
Allegedly.
And he described this disconnection as a feeling of malaise, which is defined as a general feeling of discomfort, illness, or uneasiness whose exact cause is difficult to identify. So just a sad feeling for no reason, basically.
It's depression.
Well, yeah. But that's exactly the next part. Is this malaise turns into depression, and then that depression leads to suicide ideation, which suicide ideation is defined as the idea of potentially committing suicide. So thoughts of suicide is what suicidal ideation means. Part of what he talked about as a solution is to remain connected to your community and its institutions is the importance of ritual. So, and what ritual does is it helps people feel a sense of unity, and it undergirds how the society works. And rituals are a form of values. We express our values in rituals that we perform to one another. Did you have a soundbite there, Mike?
Had. It's gone.
Okay.
It's gone.
So, and some of the rituals that we perform on a daily basis, we don't even think about them because they're so basic. So, for example, how do we be civil to one another? That's an important value. Would you agree?
Yes.
You shake hands, you stay positive, you avoid taboos, you look each other in the eye, you be courteous, you learn table manners, you hold the door open for one another. All of these things are forms of ritual.
You don't interrupt.
Yeah. Thank you, actually. Well, you did it during pause. So
I was waiting for him to throw that one out with the vehemence towards me.
But like those rituals that I described, like those are such basic rituals that we would almost describe them as being civilized.
Right.
You know, like, but they are indeed a form of rituals. You're acting out a form of values, like even in these basic rituals, like staying positive and looking each other in the eye.
The unwritten rules of society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when society attacks traditional rituals, such as, say, going to church, what do you think happens then?
Positive things, as explained by the chart. Everything went up. That's positive.
So, again, I'm going to quote, Emile, what was the author's name here? Emile something. Gosh dang it, I forgot his name. Anyway, I'll just call him Emile. So this is a quote from his book. Suicide is eminently contagious. This contagion is chiefly observable among individuals whose constitution makes it more easily accessible in general to all kinds of suggestion, and in particular to ideas of suicide because they are not led to because they are not only led to reproduce everything that impresses them, but they are particularly liable to repeat an act for which they already have some inclination. So in other words, that's basically saying that suicide is contagious. And people who are susceptible to this are susceptible to other ideas. So other social contagions, basically. Mm-hmm. The facts are far from confirming the popular idea that suicide is chiefly caused by the burdens of life. We find, on the contrary, that it decreases when those burdens become heavier. So something interesting about this book is that, he made these observations in 1897, which at that time, the Jews were highly persecuted in Germany, as you might imagine, given the historical concept. But the suicide rate among Jews was actually very low, despite they being persecuted so much at that time. So Durkheim, there we go, Emile Durkheim is his name. He establishes 3 propositions of the cause of suicide. Number 1, suicide varies inversely with the degree of integration of religious society. So in other words, if you are part of a religious community, you are increasingly less likely to commit suicide. Number 2, suicide varies inversely with the degree of integration of domestic society. So that's like your immediate family, basically.
Right.
And probably also your extended family. And number 3, suicide varies inversely with the degree of integration of political society, which that one I wasn't able to find a precise definition from because, again, I just got this from a summary. I don't believe that's like, a political party. I think that's just like your community.
Right.
From what I can tell. So to sum up, suicide varies inversely to the social group to which the individual belongs, and your immediate family, your religious community, and your like your neighborhood community or beyond, those are all societies from which the individual is attached. Those are just categories of society.
Let me explain. No, that'll take too long. Let me summarize.
So, some of the conclusions that we can draw from this. So, being a part of a society, or at least as an adult, children usually get a free pass from responsibilities, but being part of a society comes with its responsibilities and its conformity to standards. Because any community that like interacts with each other, they have to have a certain level of standards.
I would say kids don't really get a pass on that.
Okay, that's fair.
If you're talking if you're talking society, so a child's responsibility in a society is to learn the rules.
Okay, that's fair.
So they still have the responsibility to the society there. They're just at a different level. It's just a different. So children learn through play. So in essence, a child's responsibility is to play with other children, to learn how to interact with other children, to be able to be socialized, to be social with other children, and to take cues from their parents' social interactions in those interactions as well.
That's a good point. It really depends on your like the context that you're saying, but yeah, you're right. And children have the responsibility to learn the rules of society, and then therefore they get punished or whatever, or scolded.
And
that's a softer word.
That's where that helicopter thing comes into play too, where long gone are the sandlots of yore, where kids would just get together and play baseball, and they had to follow the rules of the game if they wanted to play with the other kids.
Yeah.
And it's basically a teaching mechanism for society without being involved with the nuances.
If you don't follow the rules, you don't get to play.
Yeah. And so they learn all that. Whereas if the
parent... they could learn that on their own, too. There's a great deal of learning that on their own, which is essential. You can't learn everything you need to from your parents.
If they break the rules while playing the game, the rest of the kids punish the kid that broke the rules.
Because they don't want to play.
Then if you have the helicopter parent at the game, they decide, well, everyone needs to be a winner. And it breaks down it destroys that foundational setup for societal rules, where those kids then grow up and pass on what they learned from their parents instead of kids of how society works.
Yes. Yeah. Jordan Peterson has a great segment on that in both of his books. Actually, he talks about child rearing and how that works. The
helicopter parent.
The whole learning parent. Through play and socializing and that kind of stuff, and how important it is to allow your child to have those things, because it helps them develop not only socially but psychologically.
Yeah.
It's a very, very important step for them.
Yeah. So anyway, the point I was trying to make is if you get rid of the responsibilities in a community, it's no longer a community because no one is doing anything to hold it together. And if you get rid of the standards of the community, it's also no longer a community because there's nothing that makes it a community. And so the invaders of the culture wars, i.e. the left, believes that the only way that we can be acceptive and inclusive to everyone is to get rid of all standards. So this means that the left, in an attempt to make social standards inclusive to everyone, got rid of all the societies with standards, or at least are highly critical of them. And it turns out this was...
Unbelievable.
Thank you, Archer.
Yeah. And it turns out this was a really, really stupid idea.
Can you imagine those psychopaths?
So in other words, the left pulled so hard at the standards, the rituals, and expectations in every group that there now is hardly any social fabric left and only individual threads. Like they pulled all of the standards, which are like the threads of the social fabric, and now there's nothing but individual threads left.
Well, that was intentional.
So,
yeah, Trevor?
I followed a hunch.
You're having a lot of this today.
We're going to start calling you Hunchback.
Hunchback.
It's like a quarterback, but with a hunch.
So in in some of the stuff we've been talking about in your charts and doohickeys, so early 2000s, some of this stuff started to spike up, right? There was a nominal increase since the year 2000, but then 2012 is when it really started to spike. Right. So there's disturbances, if you will, in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I decided to look up some Supreme Court rulings on religious topics.
Uh-huh.
And, going to some of the stuff we talked about before the show started that will play at the end of the show. A lot of
the pre-post game.
The pre-post game. A lot of the stuff that's correlated to what we're talking about here with depression and all this stuff. A lot of rulings occurred around the same time frames we're talking about that remove God from society.
Yep.
Well, I don't believe in God. That's great. However, society needs some sort of moral foundation. Well, you just shouldn't kill. Why? Why should I not kill? Well, it's bad to kill. Why is it bad to kill? Well, society says this, but why does society say it's bad to kill? Because it's just a bad thing. Why is that just bad? You need some sort of moral backing to it. Because otherwise, we're just animals. And so if you remove that moral backing, all of a sudden, there's no grounding to build your societal thinking on. And your children that are now growing up in this society that you have removed the moral backing to now have no even less moral backing because you've been helicoptering them the whole time and telling them, no, everything is fair in life because everyone gets a participation trophy. Yeah, but we dominated everyone. We beat every single team. Yes, you get a Rice Krispie treat and a trophy just like everybody else. Why? Yeah. Well, because that's how we say it is. Why? Isn't there some superior thing that says sometimes life isn't fair, but in the end, you will get what you've worked for? No, that doesn't exist. Everything is equal. Oh, so if we get rid of, let's see. Well, if we make it so it's really hard to say the Pledge of Allegiance because it says under God in public schools, or we make it so it's uncomfortable for students to actually have free speech in school in the mid-90s up to the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
Or if we make it so schools can't teach creationism as a side to evolutionism.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, students and kids are left with trying to figure out, well, who is God? I must be God since there isn't a creator, so I must have to fill that void in creating my own path through society. And everybody else has to follow my he, she pronouns.
Yeah. Again, so all of those are examples of basically invasions of the culture war where they're destroying rituals, destroying things that held people together, that connected people to other human beings. And so that's what I'm saying, or rather that's what Emil Durkheim is saying, is that rituals are a sense of sharing values, and that creates connection to other human beings.
And like you're when you said going to church, that's what triggered that.
Yeah. So again, that's going to church is under attack on all fronts. You know, it doesn't matter what church you go to. Like the left thinks church is evil or whatever. And I would actually say that it kind of feels, at least on social media, that there's been a tide, where it used to be the popular thing to go to church, and you could be relatively assured that you would get assurance and, like social approval for going to church. But now I feel like it's the opposite. Like you get scolded for going to church these days. It feels like on social media, at least. So here's another quote from Emil Durkheim. However individualized a person may be, there is always something collective that remains, which is the feeling of depression and melancholy that arises from this exaggerated individualism. When one has nothing else to share, one participates through sadness. So in other words, like the people that are so highly individualized, like they might even be seeking their own individualism by like separating themselves from these different communities. But they still feel disconnected to their fellow human beings, and so they participate collectively through sadness.
I'm told that if I do all these things, I will be happy, but I don't feel happy. Well, you just have to do things that make you happy. None of these things are making me happy. What else can I do? Well, you just do more. Maybe you're just confused with who you are. I still don't feel happy. Are you sure? Maybe if you do these life-changing, life-altering things without fully understanding the ramifications of them, maybe you'll feel happy. I feel even less happy than before.
Yeah.
That's the trend line for all of it.
And so that's what I'm saying is that's what has made social media like an incredibly easy tool to use, that there are so many individuals that because of the responsibilities that their traditional societies like church, like their, regular communities, because they expect things of them and just for whatever reason they think that's too oppressive or whatever, that disconnects them from those societies. And then smartphones allow them to connect to other miserable people online that they can get affirmation from for why that society is bad or whatever. But really, it's not much of a consolation prize because they still feel miserable, but they can get affirmation that doesn't actually help them feel better online. And so that's what I'm saying is I'm saying that disconnecting from traditional communities and moving to online communities, that is sort of like I feel like it's kind of like replacing your nutritious meals with like candy or something like that. Like you can still eat it, but there's just nothing substantial there.
It gives you gratification right away, but then there's the crash.
Yeah. So in other words, you can reject your traditional society for a fake detached society that just prolongs your misery.
So in summary,
emotional damage.
So
you're horrible.
There's also another there's also like another factor that Emil Durkheim says. So here's another quote from the book that's kind of changing subjects just a little bit here. So he says, under this pressure, everyone in this particular sphere of vague idea. I'm sorry. So he's actually referring to I was reading the wrong quote here, but we'll stick with this one anyway. So he's actually referring to a healthy, well-integrated society. So this is someone that is in a healthy, integrated society that he's referring to. So he says that when you are in a well-integrated society, now quoting, under this pressure, everyone in his particular sphere has a vague idea of the limit to which his ambition may reach and does not aspire to anything beyond, if at least he respects the rules and submits to the collective authority. That is to say that he has a healthy constitution. He feels it is not right to demand any more than this. A goal and a limit are thus set for desires. So this is my commentary on it. So when you're constantly blaming society when you don't achieve the results that you consider fair, that is depressing. So, and furthermore, when you are not part of a society, or that when you think you are intellectually or morally superior to that society, which again, with people leaving church and social media, that is very prominent online these days. There are no limits to your ambition or what you think you deserve. But in reality, you are continually not successful. When you are continually not successful, which statistically speaking would be everyone, like when you have unlimited expectations and you're not reaching those expectations, you have to blame society for all the unfairness, and that is further depressing. And contrast that to someone that is that is well integrated into a society. They have role models and models of success, and they too have roles and responsibilities within the society. And they see those role models and how much effort they put into what they do, and you leverage what you are able to offer with those role models, and you think it's reasonable to be content with where you're at. Do you know what I mean? Whereas these people with unlimited expectations, I guess, they're always unsatisfied. So when you're well integrated into a society, you're more content with where you're at because you have role models that are more experienced than you that you can compare yourself to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just looking at I'm listening to you while also scanning through that 250-page document thing. Did you see the ideology variation chart at the bottom of it?
I mean, probably, but it doesn't ring a bell. Why don't you bring it up on the big screen?
So they have a chart. Let's see if I can find it. They have a chart. Variation by ideology. So they have this. So the red shaded area is a Republican president, and blue is Democrat president, and
what are we looking at?
Red is Republican. This is
what's the y-axis?
Depressive affect score. So how depressed do you feel? Trends in adolescents internalizing symptoms diverge by political beliefs, sex, and parental.
Oh, so this is by political identity, basically.
Yeah, kind of. Yes.
And so blue is far left. So blue.
So the dark blue line is
different shading there.
Yeah.
So you have red, and then you have a segment of blue, and then you have red. So
okay, liberal and conservative.
It's red is there is a Republican president of the United States, and blue is the years when there was a Democratic.
Okay, well, no, that's
president.
That's just the shading. The lines themselves.
Yes. The lines themselves are female conservative, female liberal, male conservative, male liberal. So the dark red. The dark red is female conservative. The orange is male conservative. The light blue is male liberal. The dark blue is
so the spike happened during Obama. Like I feel like that isn't like the
yes.
And then
also
and
interesting
then the trend
to note,
continued through Trump's presidency. So I don't see what
that's
bearing.
Really interesting to note that the conservatives are considerably lower naturally. Than the Democrats.
Like they're following the same trend, but they're lower. They're nominally lower.
Wait till you see the rest of these charts. But what I noticed from this, so Bush right here on the left, Obama
in the middle, and Obama
Trump.
is when the trend started to explode.
And this is just 1 year of Trump.
Yeah.
So, but what I noticed was under Obama, Democrats started freaking out at the end of his first term. Or not even towards the end of his first term.
Yeah, the trend started. Oh, that's interesting. You're right.
Republicans held
Conservatives
steady.
were steady until about 2014.
Yeah, conservatives held steady until
liberals
later.
were already going way up. That's interesting.
And 2014, wasn't that the Affordable Care Act?
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I saw that. I thought that was very interesting, and I scrolled down. Has a doctor or healthcare provider ever told you that you have a mental health condition? Conservatives, women and men, down in the 20 and less % range. Moderates, 30 and less % range. Liberals, over 50% for women and over 30% for men.
Well, the x-axis is the age groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just a snapshot in one point of time.
Yes.
And by
in
age
2020.
group, it continually goes down by age group. So the younger
Yes.
you are, the more likely a healthcare provider has told you that you have a mental health condition.
Yes, but it's also much, much higher in liberals than
Yeah.
it is in moderates or conservatives.
Going back to what you said before of the naturally conservatives being lower.
You know,
than,
I think
females.
I missed this part of the document just because like after page about 150 or so, like it said that it was just appendixes or wait.
Appendices? Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Well, this appendix just burst because we're going further down.
That was well played. I will give that to you.
Percentage of men and women between ages 18 to 29 who identify as liberal. So,
Oh yeah, the women are skyrocketing. The number of like women who consider themselves to be Democrat, particularly single women. Married women are actually quite conservative, but single women, like they're exploding as Democrats.
this
That's
is
interesting.
This is where Donald Trump lost the election.
Absolutely.
Is right here.
Absolutely. And so that's why abortion was a big issue in the 2022
Yes.
midterms.
But if you notice, look at the trend line for men.
It's pretty steady.
It's slightly down. The overall trend line is slightly down.
Yeah, so men are becoming more conservative. Really, that since 2000. Wow.
Since before
we're considered
2000.
more conservative. Like men in general are more conservative now than they were in 2000. That's actually that might have been 1998. That's really interesting.
Then we go here. Liberals are less satisfied with their mental health.
Yep.
So liberal men and women
fair.
on the left, conservative men and women on the right, equally 36 each for conservatives and 21 and 15% for liberals. Then we go down to this one. Teenagers engaged in online activism in the past year. Democrat teens are more likely to have done so than Republicans. Going back to, again, what we were talking about before with which of these two ideologies is
Rejecting like traditional social institutions.
right shaping,
And what are they replacing it with?
Right, exactly. What is going on with society and who is driving that change?
Yeah, totally. So let's play a game. Let's think of all the old rituals that used to be okay.
Would you like to play a game?
And let's try to think about why they are problematic now. So I'll start with a few basic ones. Holding the door open for a woman. That used to be okay. Why is it not okay now?
Well, because the patriarchy or something.
Yeah, because like I guess the left's problem with that is like you're implying that a woman couldn't do that herself.
I can open my own door.
Or something like
some
that.
such nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. 4th of July fireworks.
What about 4th of July fireworks?
Yeah, what's problematic about them these days?
Oh, they scare people's dogs.
I got into the biggest Facebook argument of my life over this. Like, this person was saying, like, don't do fireworks because it could scare people's dogs. I was like,
It's
you've
the
got
most
to be
inane
kidding
argument.
me. So, again, that's just an example of, like, hey, let's get rid of this, like deeply held ritual that brings people together because I said so.
Uh-huh.
Because we can think of a problem with it.
Sorry,
Yes.
my dog Frou-Frou doesn't like fireworks, so if you could not light them off. Oh, yeah, sure. Proceeds to light off largest firework in the collection.
Yeah, exactly. Going to church.
Yeah, that's frowned upon.
Why?
Unless, of course,
Because it's long and boring.
well,
that was a joke even.
if your church has
well before
some
that.
magnificent band and a khaki pants preacher, and you know they have coffee in the lobby and stuff like that, yeah, go to that church because that's cool because they have bands and magicians and stuff to do.
It's usually about doctrinal stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
Going to church. Thoughts and prayers. Why is that problematic these days?
Well, it depends. Is it an event where it benefits conservatives to say thoughts and prayers, or is it an event where it benefits progressives to say thoughts
Right.
and prayers?
Yes. Dressing up in a Halloween costume.
Well, you could steal somebody's culture from doing that.
Stop appropriating my gender.
Singing the national anthem at sporting events.
Well, because it's so politically motivated to be patriotic.
Yeah, nationalism is bad.
And this one's my favorite. I just thought of this one just now. Being on time.
Yeah, that's a
Why
thing.
is that problem?
That's a thing.
Because it's giving into the patriarchy. That's why.
No, actually, I believe it's because it's racist, apparently.
Yes, that's
How
the
is
reason.
that racist?
Trevor, why don't you explain this one?
Well, the subtlety of low expectations, the subtle racism of low expectations is what that is.
No, so
and that usually exists within the progressive movement.
Yeah, so apparently being on time is racist because we're like
that's a white
we're colonizing their culture by giving them expectations or something like that, and that's racist somehow. I don't fully understand it myself, but the point is, like, all of these things are rituals that bring people together, and the left found a reason to have a problem with it, and so their reaction is to literally tear it all down because they could think of a reason to tear, because they could think of
because they weren't
properly
properly socialized, so they throw a tantrum when they don't get to win.
No kidding. So, in other words, the left seems to be saying, don't hold the door open for that woman. That's insulting to her because it's implying that she isn't capable of doing it herself. Or maybe it's a ritual showing kindness and respect that every woman ever has appreciated. Because of course she can do it herself. We're doing it because she is highly respected.
I was raised to be nice, and that the code of chivalry is something that should be maintained to a degree. And the code of chivalry is something that should be understood, again, to a degree, by both men and women for a nice, polite society. I don't know. Maybe.
So,
maybe.
Anyway, the people that are attacking our institutions and our rituals, they are intentionally destroying the institutions that held us together while they believe they're freeing themselves from those institutions, but they're only trapping themselves in their own isolation instead. And when the next internet sensation comes along, they will be ripe to jump on the bandwagon. And I find it really, really sad that so many people are rejecting those traditional institutions for a very, unsatisfying alternative.
Hollow.
Yeah, hollow alternative.
Yeah.
And so I just want to share a scripture. I love how the scriptures seemingly address many of these modern phenomenons in one way or another.
Are you trying
what
to
do you
tell
mean,
me,
seemingly?
Are you trying to say it's inspired or something?
It's almost as if it's inspired and of God.
Almost. You could almost say that.
This is Ephesians 4, so this would be Paul
Almost.
talking.
But it would be politically incorrect to do so.
Yes. Ephesians.
Yeah, Ephesians 4. It's 11 through 14, and this is what it says. Did you?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Go.
And he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and teachers for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, and for the edifying of the body of Christ, till we all come in the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and the cunning craftiness whereby they lie in wait to deceive. So,
a blessing from the Lord. God be praised.
In other words, in just those 4 verses, he's basically saying we need to hold together as communities dedicated to the purposes of Christ. So in other words, a church with authority, I might add. And when we are unified, we can resist the winds of doctrines, which I would interpret as internet sensations as a modern application, which are meant to deceive. And you can see that by the internet sensations that we have today. like transgenderism, like if you'd like veganism.
Yes.
And so apparently the importance of religion has declined from over 60% in 1998 to below 40% in 2023. And having kids, this is actually lower than I expected in 1998, but in 1998 it was around 60%, which again, that seems low to me, to freaking 30% in 2023. So people that believe that it's important to have kids went from 60% to 30%.
It's really not that. It's really not that hard to imagine when you realize that they're turning the freaking frogs gay.
Oh, that's true.
I'm kind of retarded.
But no, seriously, like I could freak out about this. Like I could probably do a whole segment about the absurdity of not wanting to have kids. But like without having kids, how the heck are you going to have connection to other human beings? Anyway.
Well, on social media, of course.
I
literally.
So. Well, good luck with that.
I just connected on LinkedIn.
Oh, you're never getting rid of that now. That's
But again, I'll also say that like
LinkedIn is the
to
AIDS
have a
of
stable
social
family.
media.
yes.
In order to have a stable family, the parents have to be grounded in good values, which the culture is doing their best to to destroy as many individuals' values as possible. And so this is just a self-perpetuating thing.
Yeah.
And so it appears to me that social media, so again, like the common sense answer to why all this depressing stuff is rising is because of smartphones. But what about smartphones? It appears to me that social media and the internet has created a lot of socially isolated individuals that are increasingly more miserable because of their lack of human connection and general selfishness. And then they seek each other out on the internet and through their smartphones that make each other more and more radical and insane in their entitlement and their delusional egos.
See.
So anyway, that's what I think is happening.
Splendid. So, that's,
No.
What the hell is even that?
As effect you're going to use.
However,
Don't do
there's a whole mess of sounds going on there at the same time.
Well, you said that's, and so I had to ask what the hell was even that.
That has been.
That has been.
Oh, I know what sound effect you're going to use.
However,
Don't do it. If something doesn't work, you need to keep doing it harder and with more intensity. That's what I've learned. Saying, yeah, you disapprove of me, but you bought my plushie. Got sidetracked by the Satanic Temple. Holy bananas. That's bananas, you guys. So that's how I learned eggnog is alcoholic. Did I say a dirty joke without realizing it? I would like to be surprised. This is me trying to be surprised.
knowledge
See,
Keith
a dirty
knows.
joke without knowledge.
That is knowledge Keith knows. Oh, this subject is so deep. Yeah.
Anyway, we could probably go on forever about that, but that's basically what I think is happening. I think that people are rejecting like traditional societies and rituals because they think they've just moved beyond it, and I think it's ultimately making them sad and their children sad.
Yep.
If they even have children.
They've eroded the foundation to stand on and then told them that they can make the foundation out of whatever they want.
Yeah.
Case in point, I've got a scripture for you.
Ooh.
It is inscribed on the side of the Liberty Bell. Proclaim liberty throughout the land to all the inhabitants. It's from Leviticus 25:10, which is in reference, which was written during a time of Jubilee, which is when a new beginning was supposed to happen. Liberty Bell was rung after the Constitution was written and read to the inhabitants of the United States. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land to all the inhabitants. That was our foundation.
Anyway, it's a sensitive topic. Whatever our conclusions are.
Yep. And again, the solution, I believe, is the same solution for everything else: revival or bust.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Oh, I'm not excited for the next presidential garbage.
Yeah, me neither.
Election stuff. No.
Yeah, the next presidential election basically starts because it used to be like a year. Now it's like a year and a half. And pretty soon it'll be like 2 years.
I mean,
as soon as the midterms
technically it is.
Oh
2
yeah,
years because Trump's
that's true.
already a
Technically,
candidate.
Trump declared.
I was going to say, didn't
midterms.
Biden and Trump both just declare their candidacy?
Did Biden declare his
Biden
candidacy?
has not officially filed his stuff, but he has said, "Of course, I'm running." We're just waiting to announce it. But you just did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And DeSantis, not DeSantis, but a PAC associated with DeSantis released an ad that attacks Trump, but more so points out that Trump has fallen short on many things while he's attacking DeSantis for things that he didn't fall short on.
Yeah. Well, as much as I love Trump, yeah, I could criticize him all day long if I wanted to.
So it's officially in full swing. And I'm not excited. Well, I'm excited for the humorous things that will occur and the sad things that will occur that I'll have to laugh at to keep the depression at bay.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah. Outside of that, though, if you are feeling depressed, anxiety, especially suicidal, reach out for help. We're here. We all have experience with it in some way, shape, or form. Outside of that, reach out to other people you trust, doctors, professionals, and get some help, because this is serious stuff and it's extremely scary going through it, especially when you start reaching the end of those lines, because it's not fun, and it's not fun to watch other people to go through, and it's very much not fun to be in those situations. Yeah. But with all that,
Stop it. Get some help.
laugh a little. Laughing does release positive chemicals to your brain that can put this stuff at bay.
Leave it to me to make the joke you shouldn't make. Time and time again. Every time.
But with all that, do all the subscribing, the liking, the following, the living, and share. Do a little sharing.
Do a little sharing.
Because that's caring.
Share. Yep. He beat me to it. He must have had a hunch. Bye!
You want to know?
I worked with some vegans, or like one particular vegan. She's like, "Yeah, I'm."
Your mic's not anywhere close to your face.
Can't hear you.
Are we recording already?
Oh,
of course.
Well, we've also got headphones on, so I can't hear anything outside.
All right.
the
Yes,
headphones.
there's that.
Well, anyway, we
Hold on.
had pizza day, and she was all over pizza day, and we're like, that's not vegan, and she's like, "What?"
How is pizza not vegan?
Cheese.
Cheese.
If you take the cheese off.
You can have vegan pizza easily.
Oreos are vegan.
Yes.
Dum Dums are vegan.
And they're both delicious.
Mental illness is vegan.
That's also true. You want another hunch?
There are 1.5 billion mentally ill people, and I mean vegetarians, in the world, around the globe.
Wait, there's 1.5 billion vegetarians?
Yes. 1.5 billion vegetarians.
That sounds like
around the world.
1.5 billion too many.
According to the British Council.
Oh, well, it's British math, so it's probably like 1. You know, converting metric and...
I mean, I told her it was 3 long. I didn't say centimeters or inches.
Mirror.
Mirror.
It's
about mirror.
You want another hunch to follow?
Sure.
Internet was invented in 80-something, technically, right?
By Al Gore. Go
yes.
on.
Yes, I believe so. It was 83.
It really took hold 95-ish.
Ish, yeah. That's around the time I discovered it.
94.
When I was like 8.
The first global internet connection was 94.
So 95, 96, somewhere in there, did the dietary guidelines change again?
Let's see.
Look it up.
See if I can go 2 for 2 on the hunch, or if I should have quit while I was ahead.
How in the fuck do you do that?
Did he do it again?
Yes. December 1995.
Wow.
The guidelines were once again changed in America for dietary guidelines.
Do I dare go 3 for 3?
Choose a diet with plenty of grain, vegetables, and fruits was what the dietary guideline was changed to in 95, as opposed to the just avoid fat that it was in 1980.
Do I dare go for 3 for 3?
I don't know. Do you? Do you dare? Can you get a hat trick?
I don't know.
If you manage to get a hat trick, I will make you a shirt that says hat trick on it. With a little dog fetching a bone or something. It'll be a dog fetching something, and it'll say hat trick.
All right, so television.
That was 1970s, yes?
Well, it was
when it was mainstream or whatever.
Mainstream in the 70s. Early 70s is when it started.
Yeah, I know it was a thing. In
Dietary
the 50s and
guidelines
stuff,
change early 70s.
Dietary guideline change in early 70s?
Yeah, 73-ish.
Trevor, you're saying these are all just hunches?
Mm-hmm. Have not looked at this at all before. Just have hunches. Do I get a shirt?
Well, I mean, you were close-ish. It wasn't early 70s.
I said 73-ish.
It was 77.
Within 4.
They created the dietary goal, consume only as much energy as you expend.
Well, I mean,
that's where calories in, calories out came from. Those motherfuckers. Hat trick. I'll take it.
Oh, gosh. Hat trick. I've got a hat trick.
And it's...
See, how far away is Vegas?
That's like literally the dumbest freaking thing.
next time I throw a party, I'm going to have you be my party trick.
Yeah. That's also when they stated consume more fruits and vegetables and go easy on eggs and butter. Ha! Eat more naturally occurring sugars. Eat more sugar.
I bet you can't find a study that's funded by the sugar industry around that time either.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
You only get a hat trick. You don't get 4.
Well, you do know that's when Ansel Keys did his cholesterol study, right? It was 76 and 77, yeah. That's when that study came out, because it was immediately following the death of oh fuck, I keep forgetting which president that was, the one that had the heart attack.
Taft? No. I can't think past Carter. Accurately,
because I think it was a little bit before that. Eisenhower had the heart attack in 55,
mm-hmm.
And then was it Nixon? I don't remember. One of them had a heart attack right there, right around that time.
Oh crap it! I did the whole clappy clap thing, and I didn't even. That's gonna throw me off. At least I caught it before we actually dove into the episode. It's just the bonus content where you learn I've somehow got 3 for 3.
Oh no, it was Eisenhower I was thinking of. So Eisenhower had the heart attack in 55.
That's when they were like, maybe fat's bad.
And so 1940 was when they first introduced dietary guidelines.
Oh, 55, so when they were rationing because of the World War II. Gotcha.
Yes. So 55, they have Eisenhower has a heart attack. And then the following day, a leading cardiologist, doctor, came out and said, cut down on fat and cholesterol to avoid heart disease in a press conference. And then they went... Oh, Ansel Keys was back before then. Why was that saying 76 to 77 was when he did his study? That can't be right.
Is it when his study was released?
Let me look. Seven Nation study. So the seven country study by Ansel Keys.
This is Mr. Sugar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he was Mr. No Cholesterol, which his study supposedly was supposed to prove that cholesterol is bad for you, but it did absolutely nothing. And if you actually look at his full study and look at all of the countries that he left out of his study and everything, his study would have actually proved the opposite. It's called the 7 country study because he cherry picked 7 countries that made it look like cholesterol was bad for you.
Look, I studied 7 countries. Oh, okay. After, excluding 13 others.
Yeah, so it was Greece, Italy, Spain, South Africa, Japan, and Finland that he studied.
So Greece that eats a ton of pasta. Yeah. Italy that eats a ton of pasta. Spain that eats a lot of pasta.
I'm seeing a pattern.
What were the other
here.
ones? Japan?
Spain, South Africa, Japan, and Finland.
South Africa, Japan eat a lot of rice. Finland eats a lot of fish. Right?
Yep.
Okay. That's not cherry picked at all.
Yeah, no. It was very, very, very badly cherry picked.
What are 7 countries that have the most... Oh, and all of them are coastal, so fish. All of them as well.
Okay. Yeah, so it was 1956. That's okay. So it was 1956 when he begun the study. It was first published in 1978. And it was first put out in where people could read it, like where
it was published.
So it was published in 1978, but it first became available to like the people that write the legislature, like the dietary guidelines. 1975.
Oh, how about that?
The year before.
The year before they changed the dietary.
They changed the dietary guidelines.
Huh. Those pesky hunches, they can actually lead you to a little bit of truth sometimes.
Yeah. So, anyway, that rabbit hole was fun. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
The more you know, the more you hate everything.
It only adds to what we're talking about tonight.
It really does, though. I'm actually kind of like a little bit humored that veganism is on the rise with social media. It kind of just makes me chuckle after everything that Keith sent over.
And the government's just playing along with it.
Once you get past the tragedy of it, it's quite hilarious.
The tragedy of the fact that since the 1940s, our government has slowly been adding more and more terrible guidelines that have been poisoning us and leading to mental health issues and
who'da thunk?
Various other things. Yeah.
And then there's the dietary recommendations they've been putting out.
Yeah. Well, they've got this new one that they've come out where they like, I don't know what it's called, but they like highlight everything in different colors. And so they have like green is you can eat as much as you want whenever you want. And like the number, and they score it on a points out of 100.
You're talking about Weight Watchers, right?
No, I'm talking about the dietary guide. They just adjusted the dietary guidelines again.
Wait, that's from the government, not just Weight Watchers?
This one's from the UN. So the UN dietary guidelines, I believe it's from the UN.
Oh.
It might be Australia specifically.
By the way, here's a fun fact about Weight Watchers. They recently changed their name from Weight Watchers because weight had too much negative connotation. They thought it would offend someone to just WW. You know, to be more inclusive or whatever. You know, Weight Watchers is becoming more inclusive.
Because heaven forbid you tell people that they're unhealthy and killing themselves.
To people who don't want to think about how fat they are. What a business strategy.
I don't want to think about how fat I am. I just want to not be what I am.
Oh,
fat?
No.
You mean fat? It's like, well, so I'm here because, why are you here? Because I don't want to be...
I'm still trying to figure that out.
I want to make a change, but if I say what change I want to make, I'll be sad.
I'm currently in the process of weight transition. I need to... I identify as a healthy weight.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're releasing... so this is kind of the same idea, but a little bit different. This is the American version of what I'm talking about. So what I'm talking about, I believe, is an Australian thing. So they did a point system for foods, and nobody can figure out how the hell they did the point system because it makes no sense. But a 100 points means it means it's the perfect food, right? And 1 point means it's the worst food.
So what are some 100-point foods?
And so there's, as far as I know, from what I've seen of it, there's only 100-point food, and it's watermelon. You can eat as much of it as you want. It's in the green category. Also,
watermelon is in the green category?
Yeah, no. It's it's color coded, so they have green, yellow, red. That's what I mean by green. Green category is green. Green means you can eat whatever, however much you want.
I heard grain like
the number.
Rice or wheat.
Green, like the color green. So the number one item on the list is watermelon. You can eat as much as you want. It has a perfect 100 score. Number 2 on the list has a 97 or 98, I can't remember, score. It is also in the green category, obviously. It's Frosted Flakes.
You're kidding me.
I am not kidding you. Frosted Flakes, eat as much as you want. Okay?
Unbelievable.
The very bottom, most red you can get.
Bacon.
Red meat. Beef.
Yeah. Oh, that's
worst possible food you can eat.
That's where that comes from, of the Fruit Loops being healthier than beef.
Yes. Yeah. So now
is it so that when the revolution comes, no one will have the energy to fight it?
Yes.
Like, is that the plan?
I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing.
What's the incentives for the government
no one will be healthy enough to fight it. Nobody will have the mental capacity to fight it, because if you aren't eating red meat, your brain isn't getting fuel, so you have a brain fog. If you have any trouble thinking clearly at all, it's probably your diet. Like, just throw that out there. It is probably your diet. So
why are you gay?
Yes, I love it. Yes. Okay, so the U.S. They just redid their dietary guidelines back in 2015, right? They call it the Healthy Eating Index. In 2023, they are supposed to release a new, fully integrated version of it called the Healthy Eating Index, which will score people based on what they eat. What we eat in America, WWEIA, is the representative survey data that they've gathered for this. The dietary intake interview component of the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, in which Americans report the types and quantities of foods and beverages they consume in a 24-hour period. So they took all this data and they have created a HEI score. The ideal overall HEI score is 100, suggesting that the set of foods reported is in line with dietary guideline recommendations. In 2015, the average score was 58 out of 100. Mine would be like a 0. out of 100 because I've given their entire little scheme the middle finger.
Mike is going all meat.
Yes. That's right.
I found a soundboard.
Yes, you did, and that's kind of awesome. I'm a little jelly. But yeah, so there's that. It's fun.
And that was our short segment on the carnivore diet by Mike. That'll be our weekly segment that'll go for about a quarter of the show.
Of the show.
So what they're rolling out in 2023.
And now it continues.
just because I have to clarify something I said a minute ago. What they're rolling out in 2023 is they're reviewing the HEI because they want to push it on all Americans ages 2 years and older.
Fatality.
And they're developing a new segment of it for children under the age of 2.
Well, I'm homeschooling my kids. How about you two?
Yeah.
Already on it?
Already planning it. Yeah, so the government is literally trying to kill you. And so are plants.
That's my favorite one. I love that one so much, especially in June.
Yeah, so there you go.
All right.
Cool. Well then, shall we anon?
Oh, that doesn't stop playing. Oh no.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
Yes, we shall.
Wow. that got violent. Very, very quickly.
Why are you running? I thought it was just that part.
Why are you running? I don't know. All right. Go to the soundboard. Can I soundboard now? Is it my
Man, Trevor, you're getting good at that.
Is it my turn again?
Yes.
What use am I if I'm not the soundboard anymore?
What even am I?
What even am I? I'm having a small crisis of existence.
Existential
crisis.
Hello there.
All right.
As you were.
I'm done.